Yes, we had too much news this week, and I had to prune it down a bit.
Gosh.
There's a lot of news that was like, this is definitely big news, but I don't think we need to talk about it in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And these were just all things where either we've talked about it before and we should definitely follow up, or I
Yeah.
definitely want to talk about it. So hopefully there's no more news in the next week and we can just get to the rest of this list. That seems unlikely, but
Seems very unlikely considering like every week it's like, oh yeah, this thing happened and this thing happened and also this, by the way.
Hello and welcome to the Fast and Broken podcast, where we take a critical look at the fast-moving world of tech and online culture. I'm Carly Rector, a software engineer and startup founder who I didn't pick a tagline for this ahead of time, who has always loved the Python programming language since 2005. How about that one?
Yeah, there we go. There we go. And I'm Teresa Kramer, MBA student, project manager, and semi-pro voice actor who also likes Python because it's one of the first programming languages that I ever learned. So,
Nice.
yeah.
We do have a Python-related topic. We'll put that one last, I think. The topics we're talking about this week are Truth Social adding prediction markets, which is something they announced this past week. Grokipedia, which is the quote-unquote Wikipedia competitor that Elon Musk /XAI/X has launched. And then, yes, the Python Software Foundation refused some federal funding for reasons that we can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Truth Social adding prediction markets. We talked about prediction markets a little bit before, things like Polymarket and Kalshi. Basically, you bet on events that are about to happen. We also noted that Trump Jr. was an advisor to both Polymarket and Kalshi, which is interesting because they were competitors, and now even more interesting because they're launching their own competitor to that. Truth Social obviously is Trump's Twitter clone social network, and they are going to launch Truth Predict, which is a prediction market that they will have on Truth Social. They're not building it themselves. It's using the crypto.com prediction market platform, basically, but exposing it on Truth Social. This is very interesting because it's like both you can see how they're pitching it like the prediction market vision. They called the whole thing Truth Social. So he's trying to get at the truth, quote unquote, in the way that we've talked about.
Right.
And he has this ridiculous quote, which is, for too long, global elites have closely controlled these markets. With Truth Predict, we're democratizing information and empowering everyday Americans to harness the wisdom of the crowd, turning free speech into actionable foresight. Devin Nunes, chief executive officer of Trump Media and a former Republican representative, said in a statement.
God. They really are taking like that, like, because like, yeah, like I remember like when we were talking about Kalshi and the other prediction markets, like we were talking about how like, oh yeah, like is this kind of like a new form of news media in terms of like, predicting like the outcome of different like events. They really are leaning very heavily on like that aspect of it and less the aspect of it that is just like, this is kind of just a different form of gambling.
Yep.
Like, so very interesting that that's their takeaway from all these other like prediction markets is like, yeah, this is the truth, even though it's like, is it though? Is it really?
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's the one hand is that they're leaning very hard on the it's getting at the truth aspect. On the other hand, it's very clear that they're doing this because of all of the different ways that they try to cash in on crypto related ventures. And both Polymarket and Kalshi have been making a lot of money lately. So this is clearly a new way to do that.
Yep.
And then, yeah, especially a lot of the money that they're making is just sports gambling. Matt Levine, in his newsletter on this, had an interesting screenshot of the sort of crypto.com prediction markets page, which was just like elections, events, etc. Then it's like sports. Look at which button is bigger than all of the other buttons. Because yes, sports is the main thing that you use it for.
Yeah.
And there's perhaps
deeply unsurprising because, sports betting is a thing that has like been around for quite some time and is very entrenched and is becoming more like endemic in society in a way that I don't quite like. It's very exploitative, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think even the broader sort of like trend to gambling, there's a perspective that I've seen people talk about that I think is true, which is like with all of the current economic uncertainty and the complete lack of a financial future that a lot of people have, especially young people right now, They're like, well, like, I'm not going to get rich by investing in my 401k or by
Mhm.
working, clearly. So the only actual opportunity for your future is gambling on crypto or sports
Yeah.
gambling or buying meme stocks or any of this magic get rich quick stuff, because there's
Mhm.
not any belief in being able to do that through the
Yeah.
traditional means, which
Yeah.
is like is justified.
Oh yeah, like given the state of our economy right now, I get where that's coming from, but like the traditional pathway of I'm going to work hard and that will pay for everything that I need and I will get a relatively okay standard of living off of
Hmm.
that. That's very difficult right now. But on the flip side, it's actually extremely difficult to make money off of gambling on
Uh-huh.
sports or anything, which I think is what kind of what we talked about in our discussion on Kalshi specifically, where it's just kind of like, yeah, it's like the people who do well in these markets are people who do in fact like either invest a lot of time and energy and effort into like breaking down all the different factors that go into influencing, a single event. Or what is it? I think we talked about this in an earlier episode, like the
Yeah.
Nobel Prize winner, where it's like you just wound up getting some kind of insider information and then exploited that.
Hmm.
Like both of it things that are fleetingly rare. Like, yeah, the economy is in shambles. It's really hard to make a living and have a good standard of life. But I think your odds are still better doing capitalism than they are doing gambling. So, which is saying
Yeah.
something.
Gambling's more fun though.
Gambling's more fun. It's true because it gets that dopamine center in your brain going, and you're just like, it's like, oh, but I was so close. Oh, but I could have, and you wind up chasing your losses and chasing the thrill of it in that way. So yeah, it's very bad. I don't like it. I don't like it a lot.
Yeah. And then there's things to be said about how Trump should be theoretically actually like fixing the economy and restoring the
Yeah.
American dream of advancement and et cetera. And instead he's launching a gambling platform. So
Yeah, it's like it's deeply not surprising, especially considering it's like he had casinos. It's like the famous thing that people love to dunk on him for is that he bankrupted a casino. The guy is not unfamiliar with the money that is to be made from a gambling apparatus.
I mean, and also other people are running it. So basically, it
Yeah, yeah.
is trading on his popularity, which is
And
what he's good at. So,
oh yeah, yeah, his cult of personality, and so yeah, that does make sense. Yeah, I think this is like even more solidly putting me on the front of like I deeply don't believe that prediction markets are like a good thing in terms of like getting to, like an objective truth or
hmm
getting to like a better form of reporting on like real events because it's just starting to like more and more very much smack of like this is just manipulative and even when it's right by exploiting people. It's like cool, I don't care that it's correct because it's like it's right in these ways that are like, basically just kind of like trying to exploit people who are wrong, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Like we were talking about before, the only way you make money on a prediction market betting on something that you know about is if other people are willing to bet and be wrong about it.
Right, right.
So, which is why it's hard to make money on things that are not sports. It's just like some random event that no one really
Yeah,
cares about. No one's betting on it to be unless they care about it to start with. And
right.
probably those people know some things about it and you're not going to make very much money on it because
Yeah, yeah, because that's also one of the things in betting markets. You make money when the underdog wins, you know? If I'm sitting here watching a game where like the Philadelphia Eagles are playing the Cleveland Browns, the Philadelphia Eagles being a team that has multiple Super Bowl wins and the Cleveland Browns being a team that has like historically done terribly, like I bet on the Eagles, I'm not going to make a lot of money because everybody else is betting on the Eagles
hmm
to win. And so it's like one betting on the obvious outcome isn't going to make you money. And so like that's not very indicative of like anything. What value is the prediction market bring to the conversation there? Nothing really.
yeah.
And if it's like the New York mayoral race where it's something like, oh, this might be a little bit closer, you're still not really going to make a lot of money betting on whoever winds up winning because it's so close and that means like the
hmm
odds are pretty split. I also feel like it's not really like it's not adding value to the conversation of like who's going to win that. um or at least like no more so than we could get like from polling. I'm just kind of like circling back to the point I was making earlier, but it's just exploitative. It's just like somebody who knows better trying to make a buck off of people that they perceive as ignorant of the situation. So it's
Yeah.
just like
And there's nothing to be
cool.
had, like, on the losing side of it, where
Yeah.
the other thing that Matt Levine talks about is if you compare it to, like, equity markets, stock
Mhm.
markets, the dumb money, quote unquote, in the stock market is like index funds or people who are like, we're
Yeah.
just buying all of the stocks in the index. And it's like, okay, but you still have value there because there's a real value in like you're putting money towards a company that is producing things theoretically
Mhm. Yeah.
versus it is literally just a bet. And if you're on the losing side of a bet, you're not getting anything out of it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you're losing your money, in fact, yeah.
yeah,
Which historically sound financial advice has been put your money in an index fund and let it sit because the market generally trends upward,
yeah,
and you'll generally see a better return on investment than any individual company or day trading by just investing in an index
yeah.
fund. That's the
Yeah,
sensible thing to
yeah,
do.
it's dumb money, quote unquote, is in like if you're the hedge fund and you're doing smart trading, you can get an edge on them.
Oh,
But it's
yeah,
not a
sure.
bad thing to do. And the reason it's not a bad thing to do is that the stock market does go up overall. Versus again, if you're gambling, it is a zero sum trade because
Yeah,
no value is being produced. The idea of the stock market going up overall is like the economy creates things overall
mhm,
that being value to the world
yeah,
ultimately. Like if you get down to
ultimately.
it,
Yeah,
theoretically that's what's supposed to happen. And it is largely happening still, even if things are illusory in a lot of ways. The economy does still produce goods and services
mhm.
at the moment. So
At the moment, yeah, continues to do so. Yeah, I think there's just so many weird things, like, in the foundational premise of this idea of, like, "Oh, I cannot, like, make a living for myself in the contemporary economy, so I'm going to go exit a non-zero sum game and enter a zero sum game," is just like, that's so dumb. Like, it's such a, like, terror it's such a terrible risk to take, and it's just kind of like people are presenting it as an option in more of this kind of, like, cultural movement that I feel like we're in the middle of, like, the rich trying to just continuously steal more and more money from those who are less fortunate, and it's like the people who make money off of those things are people who already kind of have an edge
mhm,
because they either, like, have a degree in statistics or they have, like, insider knowledge of the systems or other, like,
yeah.
ins to the information, and so
Or
it's like, yeah, you salted the earth person, I'm very sorry to say you're not going to make it rich.
yeah, or perhaps more to the point, are the person who's actually running the prediction market and not the person who's
Yeah.
betting on the prediction
Yeah,
market.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, so it just, like it seems like just unfortunately a ploy to kind of, like, trick people out of their money, and I don't like it for that.
Yeah, and I mean, Trump seems to have more and more of those. Every option to
Really,
trick
yeah,
people out of his money, he's going for. So
it's true. He is just grift upon grift upon grift.
yeah, that's probably all we need to say about that one. Grokipedia.
Yeah.
So
Ugh.
yeah, probably people have heard about this one, but
Mhm.
Elon Musk has had a vendetta against Wikipedia for quite a while. Mostly, it would seem because his Wikipedia page is not very complimentary and he can't edit it. But but also it's woke. It has like a liberal bias, etc., etc. So he decided that he's going to build Grokipedia, which is Wikipedia but written by Grok, essentially.
Mhm.
Um, and it's not really very much a competitor to Wikipedia in any way. There's a
Yeah.
lot of interesting things that people have observed about it. First of all, it has many, many less pages than Wikipedia
Yeah.
currently, but also has plagiarized wholesale some pages from Wikipedia, despite the fact that it was apparently instructed specifically not to. 404 Media quotes here that a Grokipedia page on Spanish Wikipedia notes, quote, wait, no, can't cite wiki. And indicating that Grokipedia has been programmed to not link to Wikipedia. It does still cite
That's funny.
Wikipedia pages anyway. Um, and a lot of them are just like straight up copies from Wikipedia. And people have called Elon Musk out on that. He's like, that'll be fixed soon, basically.
Uh,
So it is copying from Wikipedia a lot.
yeah.
And then where it's not, it is just like clearly set to have a very conservative bias on things. Like people have noticed some of the biggest
Mhm.
changes are the page on climate change. This highlights that it's like too alarmist or whatever, or uh, the page on vaccines give a lot more leeway to vaccine denialism and stuff like that. Where the actual Wikipedia page is like all reputable sources agree that vaccines are effective and safe, basically, which is true.
Yeah, which is true. Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So,
Ugh.
um,
I've heard about this and I've like listened to a couple of people kind of comment on it, and like I feel like my take on it is really just kind of like it seems very much like you're just paying money to create a thing that is of no objective value. Like it feels like throwing money down a toilet to me. Like Wikipedia is traditionally and like very notably not a for-profit website. It's very deliberately something that runs on donations and on people's like goodwill, not just for like the cost of doing business, but also just like in terms of the people who edit Wikipedia pages are not paid to do so.
yep.
It is just a collective of knowledge from people who really want to kind of make sure that these facts are out and available in like the public knowledge. And so it's like, one, you have invested a bunch of resources in copying this thing over with your little AI bot and like giving it a conservative slant, but, like, 2, like, this isn't a thing that makes money. So it's like,
Mhm.
what are you doing with it? It's like, are you just trying to use this as, like, a weird funnel for donations so that you can grift people off, like, on a 501c, which how do you sustain this thing? Are you anticipating that, like, the conservative masses are going to come in and start editing your Grokipedia articles to, like, contradict the liberal truth of Wikipedia? But I'm just kind of like, what is your endpoint here other than just being a petty child?
Yeah.
It
Well,
just smacks so heavily of just throwing money away for the sake of pettiness.
or for the sake of ego, I would say,
Yeah,
because
ego, which
where
I call yeah, yeah.
yeah, but, like, in the way where, like, buying Twitter was also not theoretically a sound financial
Right.
endeavor, but it gives him control of the narrative in a way
Yeah.
where it's like that's what he wants.
Mhm.
And speaking of woke AI and LLMs or whatever, part of what people will talk about is that a lot of them are sourcing a lot of their knowledge from Wikipedia because
Right.
that's sort of the authoritative source of a
Yeah.
lot of information, which it is.
Mhm.
And if that has a liberal bias, then like all of the information being provided by all of these systems has a liberal bias. So his
Yeah.
theory, I think, here is we'll build the more authoritative, truer alternative by using Grok to build the thing that is not biased, and then
Right.
everything will start referencing that instead, and it will not be insulting to Elon Musk. So,
Yeah, yeah, which okay.
which I don't think is going to be true, because like to your
Mhm.
point, Wikipedia is like a repository of knowledge in the sense that like all of there's tons of information that is in the Wikipedia pages, but it's also a repository of processes and standards
Yeah,
that have been
yeah.
built over time and a community of people who edit it and have
Mhm.
built those standards over time.
Yeah.
Like it's a social experiment as much as like a literary or like
Or
knowledge
encyclopedic.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
encyclopedia, yeah. And there are like criticisms that can be made about that and have been
Mhm.
made. Like it's very hard to, as a new person, get started editing Wikipedia because you're
Oh,
not
yes.
familiar with all of the culture and the standards that are around it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I actually have a funny, like, tiny little anecdote on this, which is that, like, once upon a time back in 2006, I was at Tokyo Game Show because I was living in Tokyo at the time, and I watched, like, the new trailer for, like, the next Kingdom Hearts game, and I was like, I'm gonna go edit the Wikipedia page on this new Kingdom Hearts game that I have just personally witnessed the trailer for, and I
Hmm.
did that, and it was immediately taken down, and somebody was just like, "Where's your source on this?" And I'm like, the sources I was there. The sources I saw it with my own 2 eyes, and they're just like, "That's not a valid source." And
Yes.
it's just kind of like it's like, "Okay, I guess." So, that kind of stuff, that's ingrained there, and it's very much a part of what makes Wikipedia, Wikipedia.
Yeah. And it's
Um,
like those have all been standards have built out for
yeah,
reasons. And like,
yeah.
because yeah, you can't just let people come in and edit something and say because I say it said so. That's not a good way to build an authoritative
Mhm,
encyclopedia. Like there's a lot of standards like that have been learned over time by people
mhm.
running into issues and discussing them in incredibly fine detail.
Yeah.
This 404 Media article on Grokipedia points out that the depths of Wikipedia account recently pointed out the discussion on the lists of unusual deaths page is very interesting because people have had to decide exactly what level of unusual constitutes an unusual death for this unusual death page, which
Mhm.
explicitly does not include things like being killed by a hippo because hippos are extremely dangerous and aggressive, and there's nothing unusual about
It's
that.
true, it's true. They're very aggressive.
Uh, Being impaled by a beach umbrella is no longer an unusual or unique occurrence, apparently, according to this thing. So it's
What
a whole such very much like extensive, very specific conversations being had that people who are passionate about this for like no
Yeah.
particular reason or like no economic reason, at least.
Yeah,
So
yeah, like, I would say there's a reason behind that, but yeah, it's not an economic reason. It is very much like one of those things of, like I saw a post where somebody was just like, it was a post about people commenting about how people will not work if they are not paid for it, and it was just like, yeah, tell that to all of the fan artists and crafters and Wikipedia editors
yes,
because it's, like, the true amount of work that Wikipedia editors are putting in, making no money off of it, but just for love of the thing, for love of knowledge, for love of and to a certain extent it's for love of being right,
hmm
which is kind of weird because I feel like that's the thing we talk about a lot in terms of like these sort of like right-wing men where it's like, "Oh, I really want to be right." And it's just like you're attacking the den of people who love being right, like in your attempt to prove yourself right. I don't know if you quite understand the hornet's nest you've picked. Don't come for Wikipedia people. My God, they're very dedicated to this very specific thing, I feel.
yeah. Molly White had a good article, I think a couple
Mhm.
years ago at this point, about why there will never be a crypto Wikipedia. Because there's been a
Mm,
lot of attempted Wikipedia competitors in the past, and a lot of
yeah.
crypto ones in particular have been premised on you get paid a certain amount of crypto for editing it,
Mhm.
and this is supposed to incentivize it in some way more than just like the love of the game, basically.
Yeah.
And like her argument is, as a longtime Wikipedia editor herself, that that's not going to work. Like people must be incentivized by the love of the game because the
Yeah.
incentives on like being able to make a whole bunch of random edits and get paid a whole bunch of crypto are different than I want this to be right, and therefore we're
Right.
going to like collaboratively figure out how to make this right.
Yeah, like, as soon as you introduce money to that game, it does create, like, a more perverse incentive. It kind of, like, maximizes, quantity over quality
hmm
of results, and at that point in time, you're just not going to get a useful resource. People do care about these things. People care so much about these things extremely deeply, and I understand that too. I think it's one of those things that, like, everybody in their life has a thing that, like, if you gave them the wherewithal, they would be the Wikipedia editor for that thing.
yep.
Like, it's like I firmly in my heart believe every person has that thing. And so it's like and so I feel like it's a very universal human experience to be like, this is a thing I care so deeply about that I really want to make sure that like the knowledge of this thing is documented in a way that other people have access to it. It's an apolitical thing almost, just the thing itself and the love of the thing that it's trying to be like, "Oh, I'm going to anti-wokeify it." That just inherent misunderstanding of woke and it's like and why people are motivated to do things like edit Wikipedia articles. I feel like that's the crux of that argument being so incredibly flawed and detached from reality is one of the reasons this thing is most likely just going to flop terribly because it's like these people aren't making these articles because they're like woke or anything. These people are making these articles because they care a whole lot about, vaccines or 90s bands or horror movies or whatever. They don't have an agenda in doing this. And for you to kind of like ascribe an agenda onto them and then try to like circumvent that agenda just like deeply misunderstands the intention of the thing.
Yeah. It's actually super interesting. Molly Wood also had an article about like how to get started editing Wikipedia because it is
Mhm.
like as mentioned kind of hard to just jump in and get started.
Truly is.
And her advice is a there's some guides on it, but b
Mhm.
like don't start with something you actually know a lot and care about because you're going to
Mm.
want to make changes per your opinion or things that are like out of line with like some standards, etc. Start with like the page of articles that need work and like go in and like
Mm.
this needs to be sourced and like see if you can find a source for it that like matches up to all of their source standards and add it or like do
Mhm.
some grammar editing on stuff that needs it because there's just like a lot of just general maintenance cleanup stuff that
Mhm.
is a great way to start editing Wikipedia and people do just because they care about Wikipedia as a project. And once you get into that, like you can start getting a feel for what the standards are and
Yeah.
how to how to work on that kind of stuff. So, which
Yeah.
I thought was super interesting. So,
That is super interesting. I don't think Grok is going to achieve anything anywhere remotely like that, and it's like, I mean, I guess if Elon wants to throw his money into a pile and light it on fire, sure. Like, you have too much of it anyway, I guess. You could be doing better things with it, but
yeah, it's very
yeah.
it's very much a vanity project, which,
It really is. Yeah.
and I mean, I guess I don't know this for sure, but I don't think so many people are just going to actually start using Grokipedia instead of Wikipedia, that it's going to
No.
gain traction. Like, even if you're a conservative, like, honestly, you need Wikipedia for political things a fairly low percentage of the time.
Mhm.
And most of the time, you just need like real information about random things. And
Yeah.
either the Grokipedia page is just going to be a straight up plagiarized, but probably out of date version of the Wikipedia page, or it's going to be worse because it doesn't have like the
Right.
community of people that are maintaining that kind of thing.
It's definitely like, yeah, like, where are you sourcing, like, it's like, cool, you've made the page, where are you sourcing the community for it is the big thing, because, yeah, it's like, Wikipedia pages update insanely quickly when, like, current events are happening. Those people are very on top of it if, like, something is changing about a topic or a person or a thing, and again, they have these standards for doing so, and they have, like, a method to the madness, and it's like, where are you sourcing that, Elon? Your little AI buddy can't do it himself unless you're just copying Wikipedia over and over and over again.
I do think he imagines that Grok can just do all this stuff by itself. It can somehow source all new events that are happening on the internet and interpret them in the correct way, whatever he thinks that is,
Yeah,
and make the
yeah.
updates. And it's like,
Mm,
you're going to have to work real hard to get it to have exactly the perspective that you want and exactly do exactly the things that you want to update your Wikipedia
right.
page. I don't think that's going to be really feasible, but go for it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, it is very much just, like, pissing money away. Pardon my language, but feels like that a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. Wikipedia is just interesting as like an internet social experiment that has been
Yeah.
worked really well for what it
It
has
really
accomplished.
has.
So
No, yeah, like, it is, like, and especially I think, like, for us, I think it's very interesting to have, like, watched the evolution of Wikipedia, where, like, early Wikipedia, it was like, "No, no, no, you can't source that. You can't, like, cite that because, it's crowdsourced, it's unreliable information," and to, like, have seen it transform from, like, "This is not a thing that we can trust because everybody can contribute it," to, like, no, this is actually probably one of the best things to trust because people are contributing to it. It's
yes,
like it's been a very, very fascinating, just kind of like social, societal evolution of information in that way. And I really do like, I do love Wikipedia. It's just such a fun microcosm of humanity going on there.
yeah, and it's very much emblematic of like the transition, which is a really cool thing about the internet from like the content being curated by authorities, whatever that means, like people who are editing Encyclopedia Britannica get to decide, and those people
Right.
specifically, and we're just all supposed to agree that those people are the people who know what's true,
Right.
versus being more like crowdsourced, and how do we like
Mhm.
build a consensus from a huge amount of people trying to contribute on the same thing
Mhm.
in a way that was not previously possible before the internet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's really cool. It's very cool. I
it's
love
cool.
Wikipedia.
And I wish that more of the internet could continue being like that.
Yeah.
And then, yes, the final one we have here is a small piece of news, but that I thought was cool and interesting to talk about,
Mhm.
which is news from the Python Software Foundation, the nonprofit foundation that maintains Python and promotes usage of Python and the growth of the Python community in
Mhm.
general. So they, January this year, submitted a grant proposal for basically some security grants from the federal government. We're offering grants to open source ecosystems to work on security issues, which is a nice thing to do, and it would be useful for them to have. So this
Mhm.
was looking for a $1.5 million grant, which would have been pretty substantial for them because apparently the annual budget of the Python Software Foundation is only around $5 million per year,
Mhm.
which is tiny for something that is a foundational language, the modern software ecosystem. So that would have been pretty substantial for them. And they did get recommended/approved for it, but they were told that if they accepted this grant, it would be subject to a specific thing that was added on by the new administration. The specific terms included affirming that we, quote, do not and will not during the term of this financial assistance award operate any programs that advance or promote DEI or discriminatory equity ideology in violation of federal anti-discrimination laws. This restriction would apply not only to the security work directly funded by the grant, but to any and all activity of the Python Software Foundation. And if they violated it, the money could be clawed back even after they've spent it. So, because DEI is core to the Python Software Foundation's values, they have their mission statement, which says the mission of the Python Software Foundation is to promote, protect, and advance the Python programming language and support and facilitate the growth of a diverse and international community of Python programmers. So they have diversity in their mission statement. And they're like, well, we can't agree to that, basically. So they rejected the money, which is very cool. And like, I think that's the right move to do. And I wish more people had the ability to do that and the willingness to do that.
Yeah. No, yeah, because it definitely, like, it is one of those things where it's hard to say no to that much money when it's a significant portion of your operating expenses and you're a nonprofit organization. But yeah, it's good to see companies that are standing by their mission statements and their principles, and it's just like, this is what we stand for and we mean it. So it's really, and honestly, like, I honestly hope that this is one of those things that gets enough attention, because I think we've seen this happen in the past. If an organization kind of goes into the news for like, hey, like, we said no to this large amount of money because we're standing on principle, people will then give that organization money because they're just like, oh, thank you for standing on principle. Seems like you need some money, have some money, kind of thing. I hope that that's kind of the outcome of this. I hope that they make more than what they were asking for, just in like people,
it does.
standing up.
It looks positive on that so far. I have also in our doc here a link to the Reddit post on our Python where they announced this, because I wanted to see the community response to it.
Yeah.
Which is very positive, actually. And a lot of people in the replies are being like, where do I donate to you? And they're like, here. And a lot of people are like, great, I donated for the first time. Even more than one person being like, I don't actually use Python or like Python that much as a language, but I still donated to you. So
that's
so that was
good.
very exciting.
That's like a weirdly like heartwarming thing from programming, because like, I know like again, like, as somebody that's like, I know like R, Python, and SQL, like those are kind of like the languages that I know, which is like very, indicative of me being like a business, like, major project manager type of person. I don't really know a whole lot of like actual programming languages. And from my understanding, like, programmers like all have kind of like their bias with like different languages they like to work in. So it's very heartwarming to be like, yes, Python, my most hated language, but you get my money for standing up for things. It's like, it's kind of like, it's like, oh, the sports team I hate did a good thing. Okay, fine. It's like, it's very cute.
Yeah. So yeah, I like that a lot. And it was almost overwhelmingly positive. There were a few people in there who were just like, well, why would you say no to this if it's just telling you to just not violate federal discrimination law, which is like, guys, no. But yeah, it was overwhelmingly positive. The one thing that they did say, which I hope will happen, is they're looking for big corporate sponsors in addition to just like individual donators. And they have a bunch of already. Like, if you look at their blog post here, like Meta, Google, Bloomberg, Microsoft, NVIDIA, AWS are all on here, which is good. Notably not on there are any of the like AI companies like OpenAI or Anthropic or anything like that. Python is basically the core machine learning language at this point. You use it for a lot of AI related stuff. There's a lot of the like XKCD one pillar holding up the internet is one guy maintaining a shell script thing going on here, which is a huge pillar of the software ecosystem. Like I said, is the Python language that is now maintained by this 14-person foundation with a $5 billion budget.
Yeah. I feel like of the AI companies, I do hope to see something from Anthropic on this, because like they seem like the ones who are most likely to, like, want to align themselves positively in this kind of development. But also, it's like, I don't know, it's one of those things where I'm just like, if they don't, I'm not going to be surprised, but I would be pleasantly surprised if they did,
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe not right this moment, since they just had to make a whole deal about not being woke.
Yeah, but like the thing is, like, them making a deal about not being woke wasn't really them making a deal about not being woke. It was really just them being like, no, here's the facts of the situation kind of thing. But I like it's one of those telling things of, hey, do you want to like stand on your principles a little bit? Like maybe, that wouldn't be a bad thing. But again, like it's like I said, if they do nothing, I won't be surprised. If they do something, I'll be pleasantly surprised. That's kind
Yeah.
of my stance on it.
Yeah. But yeah, that would be cool to see some of that in there, and maybe
Hmm.
hopefully some people will step up and do it and sort of.
Yeah.
But it's harder. It's hard when it's like explicitly backfilling federal government funding to not be
Hmm.
like this is agreeing that the federal government was wrong in imposing this, basically.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. But I mean,
but
federal
yeah,
government was wrong.
yeah, and just to address the people who are a little bit like, well, it's literally just saying that you're not going to violate federal discrimination law. In case anyone listening to this and is like, well, why isn't it just asking them to not violate federal discrimination law?
Mhm.
The Trump administration has defined violating federal discrimination laws extremely broadly
Yeah.
in a way that is not aligned with any precedent and
Mhm.
includes paying any attention at all to diverse identities, basically. And back to some stuff we've talked about before, which people like to think of them as completely objective, unbiased observers. People who think that DEI is evil tend to imagine that, like, if you don't consider like identity attributes at all, you will somehow get a perfectly meritocratic, unbiased
Mhm.
outcome, and you'll just hire the best people for the job. And demonstrably, again, unconscious bias, people have done experiments that is
Yep.
not the case. You
Yep.
get biased results because people tend to hire people that are similar to them, and people tend to unconsciously think like white men are more authoritative even when giving
Yeah.
exactly the same resume or exactly the same
Yeah.
information. Like, again, there's been science done around this. This isn't just people whining.
Yeah.
um
It is scientific fact. It's just how like it's like it's scientific fact in that it's like it's a biological imperative in a weird way because it's like favoring the in group way back when we were, hunter gatherer monkeys was the way to avoid harm and the way to avoid danger. We have as a society have evolved beyond that, but like our, biological brains have not quite gotten there
yes.
because it wasn't an evolutionary imperative for us to evolve beyond that point. And so we do need to like kind of challenge our nature in that
Mhm.
regard and in being better than
Yeah.
what we have evolved into. So it's
Yes.
yeah.
So yeah, if you're the guy who wants to be a completely rational decider, you actually should be pro DEI because
Hmm.
that is how you actually examine that. And a lot of anti
Right.
DEI stuff is not pro meritocratic. It's like we can't even like look at this at all. Like you cannot even
Hmm.
record DEI statistics. That is caring about that, and that's wrong. And it's like that seems bad. Like we
Yeah.
should be able to at least look at the data, right? And if the data says we're hiring and biased in favor of white men, we should perhaps figure out how to not do that. Like
Yeah.
that's what it's
Yeah.
about. So it's not about just like
It's
hiring people who are unqualified for the job, which is I think how people
It
imagine
it
it.
it's
So
it's also so weird because it's like there's so many studies that show that like yes people have an unconscious bias and we do trend towards that and we do tend to favor our personal in groups, but it's like there have also been many studies that have gone on to show that like, oh hey, if you have diverse groups of people you make more
mhm,
money, you make better
yes,
decisions, you like it's like do you care about meritocracy, do you want the best result, cool, diversity gets that for you. And
yes,
I did want to come back to the topic of like, well, what's wrong with the federal government just asking you to obey federal law? I feel like part of what that's also like deeply ignoring is like the weird poison pill that they were trying to attach to the grant funding.
mhm,
I may be incorrect here, but like my understanding is grant funding tends to be project driven, like for like this is for a specific intention, this is for a
mhm,
specific purpose, and for them to be like, yeah, it's for the specific purpose, but we would also like to drive and change the way that you are, running these other
yep,
programs and like running your organization. And it's just like that is a deeply authoritarian thing to do, and it's deeply like not okay. If you're saying it's like, oh, but they're just asking you to obey federal law, no they're not, they're really not. They're asking for a lot more than that. And for you to present that as like the straw man argument has
mhm,
a fundamental misunderstanding of like what is happening here.
yeah.
So,
If they were just asking you to obey federal law, they wouldn't need to ask that because
right.
presumably that's implied.
Right. Because if they just need to ask you to obey federal law, they wouldn't need to do that because presumably if you're breaking federal law, they would just come after you for breaking federal law. Your premise is flawed, my friend. Please
Yeah,
re-examine that.
but instead they're setting up so they don't have to actually like legally prove you're doing anything illegal, because
Right.
they wouldn't have been. They can just say, we think you violated the terms of this agreement that you signed when we gave you the grant, and we're going to take it back. And they
Yeah.
don't have $1.5 million cash on hand because they've spent it, and they're a tiny nonprofit
Right.
organization. So
Right.
that like destroys them if that happens, basically. So
Right.
like
Yeah.
it's extremely dangerous.
Yeah. It's very much like it's a poison pill agreement, and they were just like, it seems you have put poison in all of the grain you are giving me. I would not like this. No, thank you. Anybody who's arguing against it from that perspective specifically is just like, you are like spreading propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there are people who are genuinely ignorant about this. Every single DEI conversation has someone who comes in who has literally never thought about this before in his life to be like, well, can't we just hire based on merit? Or what if we just did blah, blah, blah? And it's like, do you think people have not thought about this? Guy who's showing up to the first time for this conversation?
Yeah. No, I'm thinking back to I had seen like it was like a comedy TikTok or something, but it was somebody like dismantling the way that Charlie Kirk would talk about DEI, because it was talking about like, how he would be like, oh, if I see like a black pilot, I'm worried. Like Charlie Kirk would say that, and this person was just like, no, absolutely not, because for a pilot to get into the cockpit, they have to pass so many tests, they have to go through so much rigorous training that like there is no way in hell that like an airline would certify a pilot who does not demonstrated the skills necessary to become a pilot. That's stupid. Nobody would do that. And but then also talking about how it's like what DEI actually does is it opens the opportunity to become a commercial pilot to more Black people so that they can get the training and the certifications and, you know, like the education they need to arrive at that point. It is not saying that like we're going to hire an unqualified pilot because they're Black, because that's stupid for everybody.
Yes.
Like they don't do that. And it's like for you to assume that that's the premise of what they're doing is it's a dog whistle. Like it's a false premise argument, and you're just arguing in bad faith.
Yeah, and it's also like the reason we need those programs, right? I obviously run into this a lot with I saw a person and I don't think they're qualified as a female engineer.
Yeah.
Which is like, why would you assume they're not qualified?
Right.
Like they should have the same likelihood of being qualified as anyone else, unless you assume ahead of time that they are just fundamentally less qualified, and the only reason they could be there is DEI. Like if you see a Black pilot, why would you think he could only be there because of that? Like he could just be qualified. There's no reason to think that he's not qualified, except for the fact that he's Black. And if you're thinking that just based on that, then obviously there's a bias there, right?
Yeah. Well, and also like it's more logical for you to assume that they're qualified.
Yes.
Because who would want to put an unqualified pilot in charge of a plane full of people? No one. It's not in their best interests to promote people who are not capable of doing the job, because everybody's self-interested.
In fact, there are plenty of people throughout the whole system who will look at that Black pilot and assume he's not qualified and try not to put him in the cockpit, which is why we need DEI efforts, because he's a perfectly qualified pilot and we shouldn't kick him out for those reasons. Like,
and I mean, like they've actually done, like I think they've done plenty of studies that like the people who are perceived as minority tend to be more qualified than their white male counterparts because of that bias, because they have to work like twice as hard to kind of like prove that they are capable of the thing, because everybody around them has that base assumption that they are not capable. And it's just so much.
I made that argument in like 2007 on the Amazon software engineer intern message board on the internal Amazon sites, with some random guy who was just like, well, probably women are just like less qualified as software engineers. And I was like, no, because there's a bias in place. Anyone who gets through all of the like shit that you have to get into software engineering as a woman is probably quite good at it and better on average than all of the guys who got there easily. Like that just is logical, right?
Right. Yeah, that is in fact logical.
And he really didn't like that.
Yeah, because it's a like backhanded insult to those guys where it's just like, you probably didn't like need to fight against people thinking you can't do the job because you're white and male, whereas like I needed to fight against a bunch of people thinking I can't do this job because of who I am.
Yep.
So, which of us do you think is better, my
And
friend?
yes, and I just had to be so incredibly good at it that people are just like, you're so amazing at this constantly. And that's how I got
Mhm.
through that level of affirmation that I was getting, in contrary to the social, like, women can't be good at math and computers
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
was necessary. So yeah, that's always deeply annoying when people are like,
Mhm.
I looked at someone, assumed that they were a DEI hire, because it's like, why would you assume that? That assumption being in there is the whole reason why these efforts are needed. So
Right, right. And it's like you're very much telling on yourself at that point.
yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, very frustrating, but very reassuring. The
Yes.
Python Software Foundation here, and
Yeah.
like the board apparently voted unanimously to turn
Oh,
it
that's so
down.
good. That's so
So
good. I'm so happy. Yay, Python. We love Python here.
yes, we love Python. We love the Python community. I was also like, I was pleasantly surprised to read that, and I was pleasantly surprised to go read through all the Reddit comments, which were like
Yeah.
so universally positive. It's like, what a great community. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Yes, that does warm my heart. I do love a nice uplifting story like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, maybe we can end things on a happy note
Yay!
for once.
Hey, it's Halloween. We're recording this. It's their treat for you all, is ending it on a non-depressing note.
Yes. Yeah, because there are some good communities out there, like the ones on
Yeah,
Wikipedia and the Python community, for example.
definitely.
Probably
For
some more.
example. Yes. Definitely.
Thank you for listening to the Fast and Broken podcast. I'm Carly Rector. If you'd like to support my work, you can subscribe to my newsletter at carlyrector.substack.com.
And I've been Teresa Kramer. If you want my voice on your products, you can visit my website at teresakramer.com.
And if you enjoyed this podcast, leave us a like or a review. It lets us know people are listening and helps more people find the podcast. See you next week.
Bye.